Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kent District Library's streaming programs. My name is Shelby from the Caledonia branch. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's Fall Home Maintenance Tips program. KDL is streaming a lot of programs this fall, including a series called What We're Reading, and I'm going to show you some more information about that before we get started. We're also archiving many of these programs, so if you're interested in seeing more programs for all ages, you can check out the KDL Facebook page or the KDL YouTube page. That's all from me. Now I'm going to introduce our presenter, Mike from Home Repair Services.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. And my name is Mike Zamra of Home Repair Services. I can tell you a little bit about Home Repair Services. Home Repair Services here in Grand Rapids and been around for 40 years this year, actually. And Home Repair Services, and then if you see our logo, you'll see Home Repair Services, resources for homeowners. So just like you have the library is an awesome resource for a lot of knowledge, resources for homeowners, resources for those who want to be able to learn some hands-on skill sets as far as how to take care of some of the things around their home. We have a fixer, what we call a fixer school. So usually before the COVID came, we had 3 classes here in our building every Saturday at 10 o'clock. They went for 2 hours, and we have it. We have a spring home maintenance class and a fall one, so to kind of cater those things to based on the time of year. But check us out at homerepairservices.org and our Facebook. You'll see a lot of stuff on there. We actually do a very short little tips for the week, and we call it our toolbox tips. So if you go on our Facebook and look at toolbox tips, you'll see a lot of the same stuff, but more focused on it. Today we have, a short amount of time in all reality for all that is involved with home maintenance tips and tricks and air sealing and weatherizing. But we're going to give it a good run and show you a lot of stuff, so you can find out more by just connecting with us. We greatly appreciate Kent District Library for connecting with Home Repair Services and having us be part of their presentation. So without any further ado, let's move, and I'll show you a bunch of stuff. One of the first things that I like to always mention for your home, and it has nothing to do with air sealing, it has to do with life saving, and that is that your smoke alarms and the carbon monoxide alarm, 2 very, very important pieces that should be in every home, everywhere. I see a lot of homes that do not have working smoke alarms. One of the things that we have here is a home maintenance checkup. So myself and another individual actually goes around and we do these, like a home analysis checkup. So we help identify home maintenance needs. And I would say 7 out of 10 homes have some sort of defective smoke alarm. Either the batteries have been pulled away or they're just way outdated. You name it, there are many different things. It just so happens to be that for all residents of Grand Rapids, the fire department actually has what's called a residential safety program, and they will come to your home and install smoke alarms every place they're needed, and carbon monoxide alarms every place they're needed. Usually the smoke alarm is 1 in each bedroom and 1 in a hallway outside the bedroom, and then 1 per floor. And, that's in addition to. So they're very important. And with a carbon monoxide alarm, it's 1 per floor. So you have a basement, there's 1 down there, first floor, second floor. So definitely utilize that service. If you live in, it's a free service. The fire department promotes it big time, and we're trying to help them because we believe the same thing. Let's be safe in our home. So give them a call and ask for the free alarm. And also, these have batteries that are the ones that they install will have batteries that are good for 10 years. So then you're in their system, and they know when they're going to expire, and they'll reconnect with you. Say, hey, we need to change the battery. So I'm going to show you a little picture here. This is actually what the little fixer school that I'm in, and this is what I mentioned. We have 3 classes inside of our building. This is our fixer school. So When the classes open back up again, we'd more than welcome anyone and everyone to attend. So now we're going to move on to some fall home maintenance type stuff. Our home has the eaves trough. We got to realize that it's very important to keep those things cleaned out. You know, you got to get on a ladder. You got to get on everybody. Just get up there and do it. I'm saying do it, or if it's something you can't are not able to do, well then make sure you include that in your home maintenance plan. That in the spring and in the fall, you have somebody go up there and take care of your eaves trough for you. Get that stuff out of there, because some of the got a couple of pictures here I want to show you. Some of the results are this, and the picture there, you can see the one full of water, the other one's raining and it's overflowing, and then that's the result of plugged up eaves trough, where the drain is at. Now you imagine that same situation in the winter time. What happens is this eaves trough is fastened to the house on this side, and it's nailed in real good. But however, when this fills up with water, and it can't drain. The thing is when water freezes in the winter, what to do? It expands. So it pushes out the only direction it can, which is this way. So if you've ever looked up at your eaves trough and you've seen that nail is sticking out a little bit like that, that's because the eaves trough the water has frozen out, and it will. So now you can see the more it pushes it out, the less it is fastened on the back side. And we'll just continue to push it. I've seen them push out so far where they're just all the way. They're not even connected. Now you can drive that back in, but it's best to move it over just a little bit. Go back in that same hole. The wood is already torn. The fibers in the wood are already torn. So it's not really going to have holding power. It will go in, but it's not going to hold like you wish it would. So you pull it out a little bit and just move it over. You can move it over a half an inch and then re-drive it. Now, that's one way of doing it. You gotta be a good swing with a hammer and make sure you hit that nail good every time. There's another trick, and that is, these are called hidden hangers. So this hidden hanger can go anywhere in the distance of this eaves trough. So if you have some of these that are loose, you can go down and pick some of these up for a couple dollars a piece, and you can put them anywhere in here. So what they do is they hook in the front, and then they come down over the back, and then there's a screw that goes through there. Now that screw is longer than what that nail is, and the other thing is the screw is threaded, and it's also going on a downward angle. So it has some really good holding power. And the most important part is it's something that as long as you're comfortable on the ladder and can get up there, for a couple of dollars each, you can add these instead of trying to deal with this right here. So I have a several of them sitting here, and you can just put them in anywhere. Again, it's called hangers. They give you this is a picture of an end view of it. You can see how that cuts up on the front side, and then cuts over the back side over here, and then that screw goes in there. So they're very friendly to install. Keep that eaves trough cleaned out, and make sure that it stays up there, because the thing is, it's just maintenance. It's just taking care of it. And if the eaves trough starts to sag a little bit, and then it gets nice in the winter time, sooner or later it's going to come down, and then it's not going to be an easy fix. You're going to have to hire a contractor to come in there and replace it because it's just damaged. So preventative medicine is to keep it up there. Keep it clean and keep it up there. This is a little thing that's called it's a gutter scoop. This one's called a gutter getter. They have different ones, different names. But you can take this and go right up on the ladder and just toss that stuff out. Mine, I actually have a low pitch garage roof, so I can actually just walk on the garage roof and over the edge, and I just keep that stuff out. You do that every spring and fall, you'll be doing good. And they also have these. Everyone has seen these. These are leaf guards, or they have many different names. I don't want to name any company or anything. There are many different ones. I've seen these probably starting in the big box stores and hardware. for $1 to $1.50 a foot, and they come in 3-foot long pieces. So for $3 to $5, you grip that, and then you can put a screw in that right here and hold it in place. That's the eavesdrop. Another thing that's important to do is I'm going to talk a lot about air sealing, because I really think that air sealing is one of the things that all of us can do. Be it caulking or using some insulation, using some weather stripping, some foam in a can, different things. I think one of the reasons why that we don't keep up on our maintenance, not saying that everybody does it, but that, something that might be a reserve or something that makes us hesitant, is that we're not sure how to actually install that product. So again, that's why we do what we do at Home Repair Services and teach how to empower homeowners with knowledge and skill sets that then once they learn them, they can use those forever. So with that, I want to go right into some caulking actually. And I have this I'm going to do a little demonstration. So this is just you can see this, it's just a stair step that we put together. And when we have our class here, and it has to do with weatherization and caulking and stuff, we have several of these. And any student that wants to, we let them try to do some caulking on each one of these ribs. I'll show them how on one side, and then actually I'll show them how to do it wrong, and then how to do it a couple times real good, and explain to them what it is I'm doing, because really it's just a technique. Everybody can squeeze that trigger on there, most everybody. Maybe some will have some arthritis and it doesn't work, but you can actually tell somebody how to. How's that? And then I'll flip it around and they'll do the other side. So you want to have the right kind of caulk for whatever the application is. If you're going to caulk around your bathtub, you would use something that is a tub and tile type caulking. There are different kinds, and they also have them in the squeeze tube, this type as well. If you're doing something outside, then you want to make sure it's an exterior caulk. I like to look at the caulk gun, and like this one right here, or the tubing. And this product, and again, I'm not here to mention product. I'm just saying what I look for. This says it has stability and crack proof. Now, I myself was a contractor for 20 years, and I'll tell you that every time I grab a tube of caulk, that's what I look for. Will they say that on their label? If they won't say that on their label, then that company there does. And what I found is it's held pretty true. So I look for them mentioning how good their caulk is on the label by superior adhesion, excellent adhesion, those kinds of things. So that's what you want to use outside. A polyurethane type caulk is really good for outside. I want to show you that. I hope that you can see this. I'm going to this is just one hand going across there like that. And you can do the same thing too. You've probably all seen the big globs, like that. What that's from is when you have your hand on the trigger, you just keep squeezing it a little bit more. And every time you do that, you pump out a little bolt, right? The idea is to keep the caulk gun moving, and to keep a long, steady, use the full handle. You use that full trigger, just a long, steady squeeze. And you squeeze it depending on how fast you're moving. Now, when I'm caulking, I'm not looking where I've been, I look where I'm going. So, like right on the road, right? We look out the windshield, don't look in the rearview mirror all the time. But I want to look ahead of the caulk tip right there, and I can see the caulk actually coming out. And I know if I should go faster, slower, squeeze more or less. That's what all there is to it. And one more thing is that you'll notice on this tube, I hope you can see it, but what it is, cut on an angle. If you can't see it, it's about a 30-degree angle. The long point always follows. So this is a long point, and it is always following, and that's what creates that little curvature and the concave look to it. So get a tube, get an extra tube. And just do some practicing before you go do that, caulk, that nice caulk job that you want to get. Practice just like something like that. There are also different kinds of caulk, like I mentioned before, but this one is actually an indoor. This is an indoor type caulk. Now they come in different names. There's one called Zip Away. There's one called Peel and Peel. There are different companies that have they call it something different. But what this is let's say I have that window at home, and you know what? I can't afford to put a new window in it. I just think that's way out of my means. That's not possible. So all winter long, that cold air comes around it. Yes, we can put some plastic on it too. I'm going to mention several other things. But one of the things you can do, let's say you have a really nice trimmed out window and you don't really want to mar it up or anything. So this is a caulk that you can actually put it on, and then in the spring, you get right down to the end of it and work it loose, and you can pull it off. Just like I don't know if you can see in that picture, but you can just pull it away, and then you just like a rubber band, and how it would come off, and then now that window's operable. So you are basically sealing that window coat. So I wouldn't recommend not to, and I say it again, not to do this in a bedroom window. The bedroom window is a fire escape, and you don't want to even go there. So no bedroom windows for that. There's like I mentioned the tub caulk. There's one of that in the tube as well. So you can go around the tub with that, or if you want to just do a little bit, get some of that, try that. But you can caulk on the inside around the trim. We're talking about air sealing. So remember the big old houses or old houses? My house was built in 1915. Just a little house, but the air can pass right on through it. Every air leak I stop from coming in or exiting, the air cannot pass through my home. So that's what I'm after. So I'm going to caulk on the outside around my windows. You see the outside around the windows. And then if there's still some air coming through, I'm just going to get some, after I practice right, and I can caulk pretty good, I'm going to get some interior painter's type caulk, and I'm just going to go right where the trim and the end up there, because I can caulk good, just like you, and instead of having cold air coming around the window. It's not coming through it because we sealed it up good, but the air can come around it. So that's a good way to stop you that. All right. I'm going to go to now move a little bit to the foundation, and the foundation. I'm going to show you one thing first. Think of the house like if you see this picture here. You see the blue color is the nice or the cool air coming in. The red color is the warm air escaping. So again, you have gaps on one side or the other, up high or down low, up high. That air is going to move right through your house because it has an in and it has an out. Think about it just like a chimney. Chimney has a hole at the top, has a hole at the bottom. There's an automatic draft that goes up that. Because why? Because there's warm air down here and it's cool up there, so it's just automatically going to pull up. So it's pulling air just like air going up, it's pulling up, traveling through your house. So air sealing. So with that said, around the foundation is a culprit where you get a lot of air infiltration. Here's a picture of this one is a stone foundation. So the stone foundation, it needs to be sealed, and it's for air, it's for bugs, and also for the little critters there you see. Mice, they want a home too. Insects, critters, they all want a home. If they find a warm spot to crawl in, they're going to do it. So let's keep them out and keep the cold air out. So you take an old foundation like this and you say, Mike, I can't mix cement and do all that and fill that little gas up with cement. Well, you can do it several different ways. You can do cement. They actually have some cement concrete patch stuff actually that's actually pre-mixed, and you can use this. If I was going to fill a gap around in the foundation, in the stone or in the blocks or whatever, I would have a little piece of plywood like this, and then I would have a little trowel, which is it's a very narrow mason's trowel, but it's very narrow, it's got a handle on it. and I would just go right up underneath the crack, bring this board flat right up underneath the crack that's over here, and then I would just take that trowel and I would just push it into that and fill that gap, fill that void. So that's one way of doing it. Another thing you can do, if you know what, I think of this stuff as a Band-Aid, but it works. It works good, and that is they have caulking. And if you go again, I remember I said every company has their own name brands for their caulking. Is the caulk. They have a cement caulk. It has a lot of urethane in it, and it bonds really good to stone or cement or whatever cement block. So you can use that. You can use the foam in the can stuff. I've seen much of this. So if you're going to use the foam in a can, the one thing I want to mention to you is there are several different kinds. There's a blue one, there's a red one, there's a black one, there's a green one, there's a white one, and they're for different applications. The one that's in the black can or the red can, they're all great stuff. Anyways, this company anyway, they're called great stuff. But what it does is it expands when you put the foam in there, and these two do is they keep expanding, the black can and the red can. They'll just keep growing and growing and growing until the center of it is completely cured and dry. Otherwise, that center just keeps pushing out farther and farther. And it can actually push things apart, and you don't want that. So what's really a friendly one is what's called the window and door insulation foam in the can. And it says right on it that it has windows and doors, made for windows and doors. If you put this stuff around a window or a door, you'll regret it because you won't be able to open the window or the door without having to probably cut some of it back out. But this is made for it. What it does is it expands until it comes up against resistance, and then it stops growing. It doesn't continue to push out and just ruin things. It will move forward, so it's very friendly to use. So to use this, you just shake it up real good, and it's got this little straw that comes with it on the side of the can. Just spin it on there, and you can fill the gap. So it has this long straw on here. The straw is 6 inches long. So if I was going to fill a gap and if it was 4 inches deep or whatever it was, I would put that straw all the way to the back of whatever that gap was, and I would start putting the foam in there. But I would only fill the back half because it's going to grow forward. So let it fill up that instead of wasting it. And the other thing is that it's just going to run down the side. So you can use the foam in a can around the foundation. If you do, what I suggest doing is let it dry, and then taking a knife or something or a putty knife, anything, and cut it off, and then get some of the cement caulking that I mentioned, and then put like a coating over top of that, and then protect it from the weather. And it's not concrete, but it sealed the problem. It sealed the air from flowing through there, and the mice, and the ants, and. So you can use that. If you have a large gap, in the stone, or like this one right here, there's a large gap right there in the corner of this glass black basement window, or this one over here. Let's say it was real large, it's too big. You can put a half a tube of caulk in that one little spot. So you get this stuff that's called rope caulk. Actually, backer rod. I call it backer rod rope caulk. It's called backer rod. And all it is foam. It's just foam. It's just that you can flex and bend. So you push that down into the crack or a screwdriver or something. And then when you put the caulk in, you don't have to fill up the whole depth of it if you're caulking something. And that's really good if you're caulking something on this flat. Let's just say your steps, your sidewalk, your cement porch, or whatever. If you got this big gap across there, well, guess what? Water goes down in there. The reason why it's bigger and bigger is because when it freezes, it expands. So seal that up. Push some of that backer rod down in there, and then put some caulking on. The next thing I want to mention to you about show you information is this is a infrared of a house, and you can see the blue spots, and you can see the orange and the red and the green. So all those are different reads of the heat loss on this home. So obviously a lot of heat coming around the windows, at the peak of the roof, around the door, top of the door especially, and at the peak. Yeah, so that's heat loss. Now I'll show you this picture right here. This is actually, there are two homes here, side by side, and you see the one has snow on the roof and one not so much. Now, to be fair, I took this picture with two roofs, the same pitch, the same angle, and they're quite close to the same. The sun is shining on them the same, whatever, all the same. The difference is one has more insulation in the attic than the other, and it's properly ventilated. So you'll notice that the one with less insulation on the roof, that along the edge of the roof, there is some extra snow sitting there. And along the bottom edge on that overhang, there's some extra snow. See those lighter colored lines in the roof? That is actually where the rafters are in the roof, because it's actually, the heat doesn't get to that spot as much as it does the rest of it. The reason why there's snow sitting on the edge is because it's the same temperature underneath of it because it's the overhang. So then I'll go to this picture right here, this is an ice dam. So you can see the ice dam on there, and you'll notice that what happens is if there's inadequate insulation in the attic, not thick enough up here, then the attic warms up, and the attic could be above freezing, and it could be 0 outside. So the snow that's sitting on the roof starts melting, and then it runs downhill, obviously. When it gets down to here, well, guess what? Below this overhang and above the overhang is the same temperature. So that's why it refreezes. So when you see ice dam build up on the roof, why did they get so big? Why did they get so hot? All that water, and it came down, it got to the edge of that overhang like that, and underneath here is the same temperature, so it freezes. And that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So that's where they come from. That's what causes them. And so you need proper insulation up there and proper ventilation in the attic. There are all kinds of also tapes, foam type tapes. I mentioned the backer rod, so that's a foam tape. There are all kinds of foam tapes, different sizes. You know, if you have a gap, there's something that can fill that product. You know, again, just knowing some of the techniques, the tricks, as how to apply it. So this is a foam tape. Something you can even put a foam tape. Let's say you have the old house and got the wood windows, or even some that are newer windows, but they're not sealed good enough. You open that window, and there was air coming up underneath of it. You can put a real thin layer of this foam tape right here, just inside the edge of that window, and then when you close it down into it and lock it for the winter, well, guess what? Now you've created a seal underneath of it that then you can remove in the spring if you need to. So there are a lot of different kinds of foam tape. And I could talk about them more and more and more, but we're limited for time. But hopefully, maybe you'll see in one of our classes. I want to mention the door. So this is just a little sample of a steel entry door, and inside, outside. So it's very important for an entry door that air, I mean, it's a nice solid door, it's insulated. Well, guess what? Air can come around it if it's not insulated right. So that foam in a can stuff, if you got air coming around your door, you can pull the inside trim off and reinstall that trim after you've gone around the perimeter of it with some of the foam in a can. Maybe it needs a weather stripping. Maybe it needs weather stripping down the side to replace, because I'll just use the text as an example. They come up here and they scratch because they want to get back in, or the dog, and then they tear up that weather stripping. Well, you can replace that weather stripping right there. So that is this piece right here, and this is small scale, but all you have to do is go to the top, very top edge of it, end of it, in there. And I've done this several times, so this is going to come out real easy for me, but you just try it, and you can actually pull that piece of weather stripping right out of there, and you can get this in a set at the hardware, and this is actually compression weather stripping, and it has this little rib right here Then this is the part that goes in the slot. So there's a groove right there to accept that. You take your new piece and you can just push it right back in there, just like that. Now, when you manufacture these, what they do is they take a very, very fine, it's called a pin nail, and they put a pin nail right up in through here, so that way the end can't start to come out. So that's one thing you can do. Important again, caulking, sealing underneath here. I see a lot of homes where the caulking is in there. Someone had a new door installed, or maybe it's been there a while, and it's not sealed across there. Well, again, moisture can go underneath there, insects can go underneath there. So you want to make sure that that stays in good caulking on it. And the thing is about the moisture gets underneath there, and this is wood, and actually this wood right here starts working just like a wick. So in the lantern, it just draws right up. So this wood will actually draw the moisture up into it. This threshold right here, this aluminum part, it actually goes underneath of the wood jam, the wood frame right here, a half an inch. And there are many, many doors that the reason why they get in bad condition is because of the frame, and it's all down here. What happens is the wood wakes up that moisture that sinks underneath there in the wintertime, and it just maybe some snow, maybe some ice that's there, and then the rain, everything, any moisture, it's going to go up into there. So what happens is it actually starts rotting from the inside out. Usually when you notice it right here, when you start seeing it, like, oh, it's starting to wear a little bit, it's already soft on the inside. So this is an important place right here. Every door should be protected by having that caulk right there. And if not, then eventually what can happen is the rotting. And when I come across my picture, I'll show you what that looks like. Actually, here's the picture. The very top two pictures here. So you can see that one is being caulked, and the one on the other side, you can see the rot down there. It's because it was never caulked. So you want to make sure that gets caulked there. If you have a door that when when you open and close it, it drags on the bottom. It's dragging on the threshold. Well, chances are that when the door opens and closes and it's dragging right here, dragging or it's bumping on the side right here, if you go to the very top hinge in your door, what you'll find is that it's loose. So you need to tighten up these screws. And also, in all door installs, there should be one of these screws that's longer than all the rest of them. It should be a 2.5-inch long screw and go 3-inch long screw. And you take out one of those screws and you put that long screw in there. What that does is that screw goes through there and over into the 2x4 that's in the wall right here. So now it's not just flexing back and forth on the frame. This frame is actually, the hinge is actually connected right to the stud in the wall. So tighten it up where it needs to be and then put one long screw in there. If you ever have any door that's bumping or dragging, the other thing is maybe you got to lift it up because it doesn't line up with the latch over here and doesn't lock right. So that's just a true telltale. The first thing I'll do if I question it at all is I'll grab the door by the handle right here. I'll open it and I'll just see if I can lift up. If I can lift it up, I know the hinge is loose. It's just a given that it is. Tighten that up, and what it does is it rocks that up there and then lifts this side, and then you darken that. So all right, along. Here are a couple outside water faucets. So it's important to keep our water lines protected from the weather. This, if you're familiar with water faucets outside, this is an more older-fashioned one where if the handle is going on an angle like this, that means that it turns on and off right in here. So this always has water in it. Usually for these, somewhere back inside in the basement, there's an on and off. So you want to make sure that before winter gets here, because it is cooling down, isn't it, right? I should have said that in the beginning. You definitely want to turn this off and then go out there and open this up and let any water that's in there drain out. You don't want water sitting in here in the wintertime. Maybe it hasn't frozen yet, but you never know. You don't want it to, that's for sure. So again, if you have the one that's on an angle like this, then it's opening and closing right here. There's another style that's called what we call cross-free, and it is one that looks like this. So this handle, when you turn it, open and close it, it goes straight in and out. So there you can see the difference in the handles. So one is outside opening and close. This one actually has a shaft going the full length of this piece, and the turnoff is inside the house, so it's more protected. So this is so that it doesn't freeze and bust. The one thing that I will tell you is one of the most important things about your faucet is never leave a garden hose on there in the wintertime, because the garden hose can have water in it, and it expands just like that eaves trough. Water expands when it freezes. It comes up and it gets inside of here. It gets inside this copper and it can actually bust. So now I'm going to turn this around, and you can see right there that this is what happened to this one. So even though this is frost free and it turns off inside, you've got to keep the garden hose off from it in the wintertime. And you also want to seal around it, because back to the air sealing, the bugs can get in, the cold air can get in. If you have cold air just rushing around here, it's going to do the same thing. So make sure you take care of them right. There's also this foam. I mean, you can get a whole package of this stuff. Here's the whole pack of it, 3/4 inches, and you can get this, and it opens up and it slips right over the top of your pipe, and now you've protected it even more. And you take that and cover all of your water lines. It's also pretty helpful in the basement when if you ever have in the summertime, high humidity and the pipes are sweating. That helps a little bit with that. Then as we go around the house, on our outside walls, we're air sealing under, the foundation, we're air sealing everything we can. Air seal around our outlet. So again, here's another picture, and this one is actually on the outside wall. So if the house isn't well insulated or there's air escaping through, we probably all know which outlets might have air coming through them on our outside walls at home. So look at your outlet, and then you can also get some caulking and go around it. Or this one, I think this one probably is done by a professional, but it's a fire rated foam in a can. This probably is not a place where I would suggest to use the foam in the outlet, just because the gap is so small. So get some caulking and go around it, and not inside, okay, just around the outside of it. No air is going to come through it now. And then put one of these pads like this right over that outlet, and then put the cover on it. So this is one of these pads, and it just goes right over the outlet like that, and then you put the cover back on. So you sealed around it, and then you sealed the box so no air maybe coming through some of these holes can come through this part of it. So simple thing to do. You can get a package of those for a couple bucks, and it makes a big difference. Again, all the little things add up. All of them, you'll be surprised. And I hope to hear from you and let me know. I did that and that was good. That's usually what we do. I want to mention furnace filters. So these are some common pictures that were taken over some good and not so good furnace filters. They're dirtier than what they look, probably just looking through the online on the video, but you don't let them get bad. This is just Mike's opinion, all right, and I'm not labeling anything other than to say that usually what happens is that when we buy those filters or plus or whatever, what happens is that's good. There's nothing wrong with that, but you still have to maintain it. You still have to check it. It could be a family of just one, or it could be a family of 5, a family of 3 with 2 cats and 2 dogs. You got to weigh all those things into how frequent you need to change that filter. It's not just a every 30 days, every 90 days, or whatever. You have to keep an eye on it. And my thought is that I would rather spend $5 or $6 a month and just change the filter monthly than to put it in there for the 3 month filter, because what I see happen is you tend to forget about it. And maybe it's 5 months go by, maybe even more. You know, if winter's almost over, it's okay. But just keep in mind that the more stuff that builds up on the face of a furnace filter, the more stuff that's on the face of on the front side of the furnace filter is actually making the motor on the other side draw harder. And I always think of that as, you know, that's like driving down the road, cruise control, 55 miles an hour, but yet you're resting your left foot on the brake. So eventually something's going to wear out. So let's keep this side clean and just keep track of it. If it's 6 weeks, if it's 9, if it's for 3 months or whatever it is, just make sure you add that routine and you know, put it on the calendar, have a plan. That's the biggest thing, is to have a plan and then maintain it. That's why we're talking about everything we're talking about today, is to make sure we have a plan. One of the biggest things that's missing. As far as filters, there is a proper way for them to go in. You'll see on the side of a furnace filter, it will say airflow. Hoping you can see that. That furnace filter says airflow. Well, what does that mean? And you also notice that a lot of them have this webbing on the one side, but not the other. The webbing side is always the side that goes on toward the furnace. That's where the fan is at. So that fan can't pull that fabric or this material through that filter and pull it into the fan. So you can base it by the webbing. The other thing is, if I'll show you a picture again, and this is a furnace, and you can see what's called the airflow is the air comes from our cold air returns at home and then goes down to the furnace, through the furnace filter, and into the blower, and then blows it up over the heat chambers and then back out into the house. So the airflow is coming in, I'm on the wrong side, coming into the side of the furnace right there. So this side is airflow coming into the furnace. So here's a tip for you, just point that arrow at the furnace, because you'll see that that's what that airflow is. Airflow is going to the furnace, all right? More air sealing is, you know, they have these window kits. They're very inexpensive. They're just, you know, $4, and it will do a very large window, a 42 wide by 62 window. And all you do is you go around the perimeter of it with some double stick tape that comes with it, and then you just start at the top, and you stick it in the corner, pull it across, stick it in the other corner, and I'm going to keep it out away from the window the best I can. Then I'm going to pull it down and out and down, and I'm going to stick all 4 corners, and then I'm going to just lightly do all 4. Just take my hand around the perimeter of it. So I want to snug it up the best I can without stretching it. So just again at the top, and then snug, and then down at the bottom, and then just go around it once. And then you just take an iron hair dryer and go over it. So those are really helpful. One of the things that is, if you can't do the caulking, or if the outside of the window is let me see if I got a picture here of it. Appreciate your patience. So the outside of our window has got some loose glazing going around the glass. So you can take that glazing off from there, and then you can just reglaze it. And so this is the reglazing. So and really what it is putting the material around there and then just going over it with a putty knife. And you know, again, another thing, that's another class that we have on, is how to take our old windows. On the inside, they have, if you're not, you know what, Mike, I don't want to do that caulking thing, but you have that air gap. You don't want to do the foam in a can around the window especially, but here's some stuff. It's called weather cord, a weather seal. I call it rope caulk myself, but it's just caulking that's in a cord, and really it's just it's really like sticky. Yeah, can you tell? But it's just like lots of layers of what looks like rope on there. And what you do is you pull some of it off, and you have a piece like that, so it just looks like a rope. Now on this window over here, if I had some air coming in, because this is kind of tacky, I can just push it right up into that corner and push it right into the gap that's there, and I stop that airflow from coming through there. Is that pretty? Is it the number one choice or whatever? No, but it's something that you can do, and you can stop the airflow from coming through. So it makes a difference. And the other thing is then you can take it off in the spring, just like the other stuff that I had mentioned. I mentioned the caulking around the bottom of the doors. Also threshold. So I'll show you this picture here. So this is a threshold of a door, right? You can see the brownish or tannish colored part of that. And that actually has screws in it. And if we have an aluminum threshold, most of them, not all of them, but most of them, that adjustable part. So the picture beside it, that it has the gap underneath the door, you can do a couple different things. Maybe you can just adjust that threshold, which is done like this. So this is an aluminum threshold, right? And you can see right here that here's the aluminum part and here's this cap. So, and I'll stick right up there. You can see that this is that part I was referring to. And right there's a screw. There's all the way down through there. There are three of them. So what happens is that U shape right there actually will come up when I back this screw out. When I back this screw out, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it is actually coming up. So if you have a gap, you can close it up a little bit. Or another thing is if the door is rubbing and you've done the hinge, that's what I mentioned earlier, you can also check and see if maybe this needs to be turned in a little bit and take it back down. So all it is a screwdriver. Some of those have a little plastic cap over the screw. You look down there, you see a little plastic cap. You take a putty knife underneath it, pop that off, and you're right in. Okay, I think what I'd like to show you next is in your ductwork in the basement. Your ductwork in the basement, you have your main trunk going the length of the basement, and then you have pipe coming off from it, and it'll look something like this. So the bottom picture, you see the trunk, and then you see the pipe coming right off from it, and then the other one is just an elbow turning up. What I want to point out is two things here. Is one, you notice that they put like a tape, or it looks like a foil. And yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a foil tape, and you can get that foil tape with it's just a roll of tape that looks like aluminum foil, feels like aluminum foil, and you can see that there's a paper stuck to the back side of it, and this part right here is sticky, right? The tape. So you can take the tape. If this is your pipe in the basement, you can take that tape, and I go around it to get it started just like that, and then just go around that and keep pulling that paper out, and you can just go right around, tear it off, and then you just pull that paper off of it, and then you just rub that down. And then what you did is you stop the heat loss through here. Because if you have, if every one of these things in your basement has a heat loss into it, that's heat you could use in the house, upstairs. The basement is going to be warm. Typically, the furnace has a register of its own. If you have a very, very cold basement, well, then get in on that air thinning, because that means you have a lot of air passing through from one side to the other. So you can do that. The other thing is they have these in that picture. The bottom one, the very bottom of this bottom picture, you'll see that it's like a little arm down there with a nut on it. And what that is this. So there's the little arm with a nut on it, and they have these inside of the ductwork. So if you see that you have one of those in You can actually turn these. So if the arm is going across, then we close this up. Some air can still get around it, but then if it's open, I've been into several houses and the homeowner was not aware of these at all, and some of them were closed. And we want to know why it's cold upstairs, or why is it always cold to that farthest room. Imagine if the furnace is right below the bathroom, and so the very first one coming off from the trunk is over the bathroom. From there to the other side of the house and upstairs. Well, the bathroom is going to probably be the warmest room in the house. So you can back that one down a little bit and let some of that heat go off to the other room. So I'll just leave it with this is that I hope that this has been helpful, and there are so many tips. I could stand and talk for hours and hours on end about this, and we have our classes here. They're 2 hours, and that's not enough time. So we encourage people to ask as many questions you want. If you want to stay after, I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. So I hope it was helpful. You're able to use this, and remember, Home Repair Services. .org is our website, and we have a Facebook, and you'll see toolbox tips on there. We put one on every week and talking about all of the same kind of stuff. And so check that out. Check out what Home Repair Services is, because just like Ken District Library, which we are very grateful to, it's a resource for information, and that's what we're doing here today. And Home Repair Services is a resource for homeowners and homeowners for some of the programs we have. But the education part, that's free and open to the public. So once we get rolling again, and we can start having classes, which we hope isn't too long, then we all can be in a healthy state and be able to start doing that. So I thank you very much, and thank you to Kent District Library.
Thank you so much, Mike. Lots of good information there. And I would encourage everyone to go check out the Home Repair Services Facebook page so you can check out those toolbox tips and get some more tips for home maintenance stuff. Thank you to everyone who joined today. I hope you all have a wonderful night, and I hope to see you again in another program soon.